So, to start a coil, I kind of squeeze it into a bit of a coil shape to start. Then, I'm going to start rolling my coil. Now, I'm using only this part of my hand. If I roll too far forward, this part and this part, the two fleshiest part of your hands, are going to press too hard and you'll get lumpy, uneven coils. So I really keep my fingers flat and I use just the length of my fingers. And as I go, I spread my fingers apart. It's a combination of stretching the clay apart with your fingers and pressure. If you're pushing too hard, you're going to flatten it and it's going to start going like boom, 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 because you don't have a circle. You're not rolling a cylinder. And if you don't press hard enough, you're just going to dry out your clay and not make a coil. So you kind of have to find the balance. And you have to change up where you are rolling. If I just only roll on one side, then it'll cause a little tension spot because this part is staying a bit more still than this part is while I'm rolling. So I have to make sure I'm going back and forth. It's getting a little skinny there, so I need to make sure I get everything else as thin as that part because we want our coils to be even. Also, if I find that it's not being cylindric, I can kind of smash it down in places to make sure it's a nice cylinder I have. Okay, so that's about the width of my thumb. That's a good width. I have small hands, so my thumbs are fairly skinny. If you have bigger hands than me, which most of you probably do, you'll want to probably roll them a little bit skinnier than your thumb. Okay, then I'm going to start stacking coils on. So I'm going to stack it right on the edge of my slab base. So I first have to scratch. The art word for that is score. So I'm going to score around the edges. Notice these are deep scratches. They are not uniform. They're just sort of messy. And that is better. The point of doing this is creating surface area that the clay, on which the clay touches. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. I'm going to score this. Again, it's not pretty. It's not exact. It's not this. I see people do that all the time. Ridiculous. It's not doing any good. Go in a variety of directions. You are trying to create as many surfaces that can grip each other as possible. Okay, then I'm going to add slip. So this is the slip part of slip and score. When you add slip, you're kind of smoothing some of your scratches. You're scoring out a little bit. So I always do a few more scratches again. And then I attach where the scoring is. And look at that. I've got some extra. So I'm going to score here now. Oop, broke my coil off. I'm going to smooth where they meet. Scratch the top. Let's say you are making the bowling pin shape. So the bowling pin shape is going to come out a little bit, in, and then back out. So instead of now stacking directly on top, I'm going to stack slightly towards the outside so that we're starting that curve out. So then I would stack on the outside, and then I would start bringing them in again for the inner part of that bowling pin shape. I'm going to roll another little coil for this area, and then I can show you how to smooth the coils out on the outside. Which, if you want to try to guess what tool I'll use, it's going to be thin. It's going to be used for smoothing the clay. Use plastic rib. Alright. Scoring the outside here. Scoring my coil off camera. There we go. Slip. Some extra I don't, oh, there's some extra I don't need, so I'm cutting that out. Okay, so I have 2 rows of coils on. Because we're going to end up enclosing this, you don't need to worry about smoothing the inside because nobody's going to see it. But we are going to smooth the outside, so I need to go get a plastic rib. Plastic rib. Thin piece of plastic used for smoothing the clay. So I just kind of pull up lightly at an angle. It's kind of taking the extra clay and putting it between your coils. And then I kind of do it the other direction. So I scrape up. And then I use my thumb to smooth the other way. It's a bit of a practice in patience. I'm kind of having to push a little bit on the outside to make sure I'm smoothing in between some of those stubborn areas. Again, you can't press very hard because this stuff is very plastic, moldable. So if you're pressing too hard, you're just going to cave it in. So I'm always having support on the inside when I'm scraping the outside, or I have support on the outside while I'm scraping the inside. If I didn't have my hand in here, I would just be smashing my pottery. These little pieces, that's a good stuff to plop into your water to make slip. Then we don't put it in the drain because we don't want chunks of clay in the drain. And then we don't waste it by throwing it away. Okay, so there we have 2 rows of coils stacked onto our base. So I would just keep stacking up, 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 then slightly going in and then out again, and then we're going to cover the top when we are finished. And we'll have like a bowling pin. And some of you are maybe thinking ahead and you're thinking, but then we just have one giant air bubble. So at the very end we'll poke a hole in the bottom, and that way some steam can come out when you're working. Or you could make your animal have an open mouth or something like that, to where there's some sort of release of all this air that's inside your pottery working its way out. Oh, almost stopped the video. Slipping and scoring. It's important because you're making more surface area with which the clay can adhere to itself. So if I had 2 pieces of clay, let's imagine my hands are 2 coils, and I just smash them together like this. As the clay dries, it shrinks, so it shrink apart from each other, and then it creates this gap between the coils. It's on a microscopic level, so as it shrinks, you have this tiny little opening, but then your pieces fall apart. So instead, you score it, which is causing all these cracks and crevices. Then when you attach it, you're kind of smushing those together, and then as it shrinks, it creates a tighter bond because it's shrinking into all of those crevices, and so that those surface areas are really attaching nicely to each other, and then your pieces don't fall apart. So if I walk by and I ask you if you've slipped and scored something on and you say yes, you're only punishing yourself if you haven't really. 'Cause I will catch you in your lie later when I fire it and your pieces fall apart. So if I ask you and remind you to slip and score something together, please take my advice. I have done this enough that I know things will fall apart if you do not slip and score each time. All right, that is that.